Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fund for Women and Girls 2021 Grantmaking Celebration. I'm so glad that you could join us this evening. My name is Jennifer Morak, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Fund's co-chair with Isabel Zisk, who you'll hear from soon. This is the night when the Fund's voting members and friends come together each year to recognize the work of the community nonprofits and award our annual grants. Thanks to your generosity and commitment, over the past 5 years, we've awarded grants totaling over $1 million to more than 36 nonprofits. Tonight, we will hear from last year's 8 grantee partners about their successes and their challenges. We'll take a moment to thank our grants committee, and what promises to be an illuminating conversation, we will hear from the 3 of the most experienced leaders in New Jersey's nonprofit community about how philanthropy is evolving. Lastly, and most importantly, we will be announcing this year's Fund for Women and Girls grantee partners, including an inaugural award in the memory of our friend and colleague, Liz Gray Erickson. But now we'd like to introduce the first of 2 videos where you will hear from last year's grantee recipients. Thank you for making all of this possible.
Hi, I'm Leslie Koppel. I'm the Executive Director of RISE. The Women and Girls Fund has been a supporter for a very long time for a variety of programs. So the great thing about the Women and Girls Fund is that they're not afraid to try new things. And throughout the years, we've had the experience of many different programs that they've supported, but also they've given us the freedom to develop new programs. And I think that one of the strengths of the Women and Girls and the processes that they've employed over the years is that I've been able to meet many of the people who work on the Women and Girls Fund, and they've had the experience with the program. They're always doing site visits, and there's been a very interactive relationship between the people who are on the fund. It's not an anonymous group of women and men, but it's people who want to be active and involved and invest in their community. One of the big investments that the Women and Girls Fund did last year with RISE was to make an investment of unallocated funds. And unallocated funds in the nonprofit world are they're the golden unicorns, they're the rainbows, they're the things that say we believe in you and we know that you have the strength, the resilience, and the foundation to take this funding and do what's right with it and make people secure and help families. And the ability to keep our doors open is what the unallocated funds do. So it's a lot easier to give a pair of pajamas, and it feels really good when you're doing that. But in order to give those pajamas out, I need to keep the lights on and my doors open, and we need to be able to welcome people in a safe environment. And we needed to do so many things outside last year and buy tents and keep our fresh food fresh with refrigerated carts and means like that. And so all of these things, the back end of giving, is what unallocated funds do to make it possible for us to provide programming. And last year for RISE and for all of our nonprofit partners was a time of sort of go big or go home. And when we got the funding from the Women and Girls and that essential support, it enabled us to go big. Unallocated funding is a really special gift for nonprofits, and we were able to use it in order to create homes and safe places for people and keep family units intact. So I just wanted to say thank you to the Fund of Women and Girls for coming through last year and having the confidence in RISE and saying to us that we believe in you, we're going to help you at a time of need, and you did.
Hello, my name is Alma Garcia. I'm the Executive Director of Puerto Rican Community Center. Thank you very much for the devices and the hotspots you provided for our 90 children and our 90 families. We appreciate it. We are a bilingual preschool program serving Trenton residents since 1975. And so we applied for this COVID relief grant with the thought that we wanted to close the gap of the digital divide for children in our city. And that was the original purpose of it. But throughout, we discovered that so many other things happened that were very new. And so what we found throughout the grant was unimaginable. The pandemic exposed us to having to do the program through a virtual form. And so we learned that teachers were making such a big connection with families in their homes. They were finding out issues that were happening in the family that we would not know before. And because their bond was so much stronger of seeing the whole entire family every day, they were able to connect families to the family worker, to me, and to other resources in the community so that we can provide support services through these challenging times. It was also a surprise to find how much parents were invested in learning from the teacher who was modeling how do they support their children's learning through play. We always explain to parents, but I think it's hard to think children are just playing because they look like they're just playing. And it's hard to observe the connection between play and learning and see the progress, the English language acquisition, the literacy. There's so many parts of the program that parents could not see because they're not there. So throughout the pandemic and parents being able to sit with teachers through circle time and other parts of the day, the teachers model for them. And so it was a totally new experience for the parents. It was also very surprising that children were interested in staying engaged in Zoom for hours. I would have never imagined that teachers would be able to pull that off. It was surprising how many more advantages we were able to obtain just from being able to have the tablet and the hotspot in every home. There's another thing that I think was very powerful, and is that we were not aware of the lack of technology capacity for parents. When the pandemic happened, everything had to be done online, and many of our parents did not even have an email address. So we had to be able to support them with how to obtain all the services that they needed through technology. But they had a hotspot in the home, so at least they had Wi-Fi, and we could call them and take them through what they needed to do. So with the tablet and the technology, it just went so much further that we would have been able to imagine or be able to tell you when we asked for the grant, because it was kind of a beautiful surprise, but very surprising in times that we never experienced before. So thank you so much for making that happen for us.
Hi, my name is Maritza, and I am from the Children's Home Society of New Jersey. And on behalf of the organization, we want to thank the Funds for Women and Girls for supporting our Amar community-based doula program in 2020 and 2021. You have helped 70 women deliver healthy babies in Mercer County. In New Jersey, we know that low-income Hispanic and Black women are more likely to die during childbirth, and their babies are more likely to die during their first year of life. During the pandemic, we have seen how our community-based doulas have truly served as first responders, being there during the time of highest need, during time of grief and loss and change. For those of you who may not know what a community doula is, they are community educators who are trained professionals who provide prenatal, labor and delivery, and postnatal support for women during their most significant time in their lives. Although they're not medical professionals, they are part of the women's team and they're there to support them. And we really saw this during the pandemic, where our doulas were actually supporting women who were COVID positive, or spouses who were also COVID positive. And they did this during long hours, oftentimes holding their hands for 15 or 18 hours at a time. Our community doulas come from our community. They're trusted members of their community and provide the cultural and linguistic needs that they need. We also know that during this year, our data demonstrate that our outcomes have been significantly better and far exceed the numbers for Trenton, Mercer, and the state of New Jersey for some birthing communities. We know that our Amar doulas have supported births that are higher in birth weight, higher in breastfeeding rates, higher in initiation rates, and higher in full-term birth. We also know that our Amar doulas have supported women who've used far less epidural and C-sections. But one of the things that we're also very proud about is the fact that this supports women throughout the entire state of New Jersey. We have also supported our New Jersey Medicaid office and the Department of Health to make sure that we help them inform their policies and their decisions to support doula care, community health workers, and pregnant women throughout the state. We want to thank the fund for helping us fulfill our mission of saving children's lives and building healthy families.
Hello, my name is Dr. Nicole McGrath, the founder and CEO of Kinder Smile Foundation. We would like to thank the Funds for Women and Girls for providing us with funding to help support our PPE, as well as to initiate the first cohort of perinatal health and wellness program, the mothers who are uninsured. We were blessed to open up our doors, Kinder Smile Community Oral Health Center, Trenton, in the thick of COVID, approximately 1 year ago. The funding was able to provide necessary access to care for the underserved and the uninsured population. More specifically, we were able to provide much needed access to oral care for the perinatal health and wellness, our first cohort of mothers. It's been a blessing. We've been able to provide the comprehensive dental services for a mother who presented to us with absolutely no insurance. She was referred from Capital Health, which is one of our community organization partners, and she was partially edentulous. And because she was partially edentulous, and I believe in her second trimester, she was unable to chew or masticate food to provide the nutrients for her unborn child. And it was due to your generosity and your funds that allowed this mother to get upper and lower dentures. So as her treatment was completed, she was smiling. She's able to go out into her community, but most importantly, to deliver a healthy baby. So we thank you so very much, and we look forward to a future partnership.
Wow, it is wonderful to hear from our grantee partners. Thank you so much. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce tonight's panel, who will help us understand how philanthropists can work together with nonprofits. As a reminder, if you have any questions for the panel, please put them in the chat because our moderator will be posting them and posing them to our panelists tonight. And our panel will be sticking around for a few minutes at the end of the event to answer any of the additional questions that we didn't get to. Tonight, I am pleased to introduce our moderator, Nolita Valentin, Vice President of Grants and Programs for the Princeton Area Community Foundation. She is joined by Leslie Koppel, the Executive Director of RISE Social Support in Hightstown, and Michelle Tompkins, Director of Youth Engagement for Mill Hill Child and Family Development in Trenton. Please welcome Nolita, Leslie, and Michelle.
Thank you, Jen, and good evening to all. It is my honor and pleasure to be with you this evening. At the Community Foundation, we take great pride to work alongside the Fund for Women and Girls and we truly appreciate the philanthropic commitment that you all make as members of the fund to this regional community that we work to serve. Tonight, I'd like to invite a conversation with two amazing women who are committed to their work as nonprofit partners in our region, Michelle and Leslie. Their organizations work tirelessly to serve families, the children, and the communities they touch. They exemplify our vision for creating lasting change and our commitment to advance the well-being of our communities forever. Both RISE and Mill Hill Child and Family Development have been grantee partners in the work of the Fund for Women and Girls. It's an example of the longstanding relationships between the fund and community nonprofit organizations. So I would like to invite tonight's conversation highlighting an approach that I've been learning more about, and one that the Fund for Women and Girls has been embracing, known as trust-based philanthropy. Trust-based philanthropy is a commitment to modeling and advocating trust-based grant-making practices. It offers a new way to consider the way that funders and philanthropists can contribute to a healthier nonprofit sector, and therefore to a thriving and vibrant civil society. In essence, it helps us through principles to show up in a trust-based way. The key pillars of trust-based philanthropy are listed up on the screen. They include transparent and responsive communication, providing extended and less restricted funding, simplifying the way that grants are awarded, and soliciting and acting on feedback. This also means doing the homework and keeping in mind that we can do so much to support beyond the check. We do have a responsibility as funders and philanthropists to shape and nurture the relationship with nonprofit partners. We would essentially like to know most deeply and fundamentally how we can be better funders, how can we be better partners, and better volunteers. So Michelle, let's begin with a question for you, and then I'd like to hear from you, Leslie. What are the things that are most important to you and your organization, and how has the Fund for Women and Girls been helpful? Michelle?
Thanks, Nalita. So at Mill Hill, I lead the youth programming, and we were fortunate to be the first to get the multi-year grant at this time in 2016. And this was for our Trenton Peers program. And these are the high school students that we work with to develop them to be educators, to go into the schools and deliver workshops on anti-bullying, anger management, and self-esteem, to name a few, to help other young people make wise choices and stay on a positive path to a bright future. And receiving that 3-year grant for these high school students was, to be very honest, it was a relief for us. We knew that we had the security of that funding so that we could really focus more strategically on the program, and in particular to form 3 new partnerships that I'd like to talk about to really elevate our programming for our Trenton peers. And I'd like to share it through a story. When I joined Mill Hill in July of 2017, I was talking with the peers and saying, what can we do to really help you? What is it that you need? And I will never forget it. One of our students, one of our top peers, she was in the number five in Trenton Central High School. She said, Miss Michelle, I need you to take us to the Trenton Public Library. And I thought, the library? I said, can you share more? And she said, I need to get my resume done, and the computers there are free. And I also need to start doing things for college, and we don't have computers at home. And I was shocked. I just had assumed that people had technology in the home, and many of the peers did not. So we worked very quickly and started forming some new partnerships to really help them. We have a partnership with Wise Up, who does all the college prep planning for our students to make sure that they make it into college. Here I had a student who was number 5 at Trenton Central High School and is struggling to get her resume and her college work done. We partnered with a college essay specialist who comes in and helps them write their resumes. And our own staff, no, she actually does the college essay, the staff, we help them with the resumes to make sure that they have that pathway to college. And lastly is the computers. From that day forward, every peer has gotten a computer so that when they enter college, they are ready. And in many steps now, what we've done is enabled that to happen in their junior year so they can do all the important college readiness and prep work. And through those partnerships, it has really, really helped our students. And the last partnership is one that's called the Trenton College Access Network. I was thinking, I can't be the only one doing this kind of work. Let me reach out to others. And I was referred to Jason Klugman from PUP. And I said, I think there's some power in having a collaborative network of people where we can share what we are doing. And he said, Michelle, we had started this a few years ago and it just kind of fell. We didn't have anybody to anchor it and keep it going. I said, I will be that person. And today that network is back on track. We have some amazing organizations that are part of it. LAUDEF, Young Scholars Institute, PUP, Bridge to Employment, Upward Bound, Educational Talent Search. We produced our first report. We've got data on 200 high school students that are coming out of Trenton Central High School and on and off to college. This would not have been able to happen without this 3-year grant enabling us to look more strategically, to form partnerships, and to ensure that pathway for every single one of our peers to get into college.
Thank you so much. What a great example to show how in real time, in real life, the principle of multi-year unrestricted funding in one of our pillars would work. How about you, Leslie?
Well, I'm delighted to be here. I just wanted to say with this group of women and men, it's very exciting to be part of the Fund for Women and Girls. I've been with RISE for 10 years. We're serving the communities in East Windsor and Hightstown. And I think part of one of the slides you showed, Leda, was the slide of homework. And women and girls, when I think of the different places that the funders have come to visit us. They've been to our middle school. They've been to our camp program. They've come up to our office. We've had investigators come during the grant process and not in a positive way and see what we're all about. And often when you're in an area, even though Mercer County is so big, this corner of Mercer, to take the time and investment and curiosity is what the funds has really shown for us. So over the past 10 years, the Women and Girls Fund has supported safe dates programs. And I even remember a study you did right when I started, a really deep quality study of the needs of women and children in Mercer County. And we still use parts of that study today to talk about gaps in daycare. So that was a really powerful study. And it's that curiosity, that intellectualism, talking about what is needed and finding out the real issues and the real challenges of the nonprofits.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Leslie. I love especially the part where you talk about do the homework, which is one of the pillars. The way that shows up in a trust-based way is that we as funders need to create conditions for mutual learning and always do the homework and try to understand what's happening in the community as a way to then inform our philanthropy. I'd like to ask another question to both of you. Could you speak more about your experience with the funder-grantee relationship? How has that been impactful, and in ways that you might perhaps not have mentioned already, how it has improved your work?
Yeah, and I would
Michelle?
like to share that I've always found the Fund for Women and Girls so supportive of our success. You know, they approach us in a way of how can we make sure that you succeed in what you are doing? And that is very affirming as well as empowering to have that feeling behind you. And in ways, there have been so many, I think I'll call it like organic ways of connecting with members of the Fund for Women and Girls. We had one of our peers and one of the Fund for Women and Girls strike up this wonderful mentor-mentee relationship. And it just happened, as I mentioned, organically when they had met. And that relationship has gone on for 4 years. Amika is about ready to graduate from Monmouth University and is still in touch. They meet often. And in fact, that mentor-mentee relationship between Amika and Karen, we brought them back into our organization to present to our young people, to show the power of that relationship. And for Amika to say how much Karen has made such a difference in her life, and to show the other young people, this is what it looks like. And for Karen to share how much Amika has enriched her has just been phenomenal. And the students were just amazed by it. We recorded the session. They were saying, wow, can we go back and look at that? We also had other Fund for Women and Girls members help create a Fill a Gap fund for students that needed help with taking some summer school classes. And, in other ways, books, they needed money for books. Our peers needed money for books. And that money was there and they could draw on that to try to really stay on track to graduate in 4 years. And lastly, we had another Fund for Women and Girls member who had us over to her home for dinner, invited all the peers. We got on the van, went to her house, and she also had Princeton students from around the world come. And we just let the youth be at the dinner table and start talking and eating and enjoying a meal. And they were so impressed. I remember on the van ride home, they were like, wow, like we should really push and get into college and look how it can be. And it was so nice meeting other students from around the world. And all these things just happened organically. And we also Fund for Women and Girls members contributing to help us get those computers, both them and other individual donors that I mentioned earlier, so that every peer has a computer. This to me is that support beyond a check. When you're getting to meet the students, they're also members have come to present to our peers, wonderful ways that they are getting to know our youth.
That's amazing. Thank you, Michelle. Leslie, did you have something that you'd like to add?
Well, I spoke a little bit in that video, but I think when I looked at it again, I used the word golden unicorn to talk about unallocated funding. And I think the biggest part is when you talk about relationships, when they're trusting relationships. So we have people, when they get into a taxi cab here in Hightstown and East Windsor, and they don't know where to go, and they might have just come from, often they're from Ecuador. That's a country of origin that a lot of people here come from. The taxi cab person will take them directly. Their first stop is to the RISE office, because they feel comfortable coming to our office. And there's a lot of trust in the community, in the services that we provide, and that we're able to give people what they need, especially for food. So last year during the pandemic, I know everyone, saw we did everything outside. We gave out over 158 bags of food last year. When we were in the middle and figuring out how we're going to scale up to provide these 300% more people than we did before, we didn't have time to look around and figure how, we just did. And the Women and Girls Fund, with the unallocated funding, trusted our organization to do. They came through and they enabled us to get the job done. They didn't cut, it was, we talk about a streamlined application process. I don't even remember the application process. It was that streamlined, and it was what we needed at the right time. And that is such a powerful, powerful gift that the group was able to give us. And we still have lots of opportunity. We still have lots of need, but that immediate call to action, the fund just came together, and we appreciate it so much. And I think that ability, not only the trust that you had in the organizations that you funded, because you knew us, you knew we were going to get the job done. So you have that level of trust, but also the ability to pivot, the ability, we used that word a lot last year, to be agile, but that's what we all did. And the fund was right there. The fund had that ability, the moving pieces, that we could do this, we could move that, and they did it. So I just wanted to, that to me is really powerful. And when, speaks about the impact of the fund in such a big and significant way.
Wow, thank you for that. It speaks so much to the principles of trust-based philanthropy, sort of streamlining the process, knowing when to pivot, really understanding that nonprofit partners are partners in philanthropy, and that we need to understand ways in which we can create less barriers but more opportunity to have impact in the community. So thank you both. We have a few minutes left. The conversation is so great and it goes so fast. I have one more final question, and maybe we might have an opportunity for a question from our members. But you know, you were talking about the support beyond the check. You gave so many great examples of how the Fund for Women and Girls, you know, has supported the work that you do in the community outside of just a grant. What other ways can we continue to support your work?
Well, I'll speak quickly for Rise. If you go to our website or anywhere about us, we have an army of volunteers, and volunteering can be physically coming on November 20th with the Rise to the Task drive-through and putting 1,000 turkeys in car trunks, which we're going to do at a nearby warehouse. So we're going to have 1,200 turkeys. They need to be packed and get into trunks, and that's like lifting and work and camaraderie and everything. But there's also the idea of volunteers bringing your skill set. We need copywriters, people with a financial sense. We love people on our board also, to bring new board members in. So there's so many different ways to volunteer, and there's ways to give too. We have a thrift store. So the better quality merchandise that we can put in the thrift store, the more money that comes back into the organization. And I'm sure all the organizations, if you don't mind, I'll speak for us all. There are so many ways to volunteer and give back, and whatever skill set you have, if it's a nutrition program, we're running nutrition programs, there's children, and there's just a lot of ways to give back that don't involve the checkbook. It's beyond the checkbook. And if you're a coordinated, organized person, you can come here and help us anytime, from stuffing envelopes to writing copy to helping us out. And I think we all speak to that, is that that we're welcoming, the women and girls, we have this confidence when you come to help us, we're getting quality volunteers who are going to help, and they're going to work, and they're going to be part of the good things that we do.
Thank you for that. Michelle, did you have something you'd like to add?
Sure. So, you know, I work with the youth at Mill Hill, but Mill Hill is much bigger than that. So I just wanted to also share that we are in Trenton. We have a preschool of 75 children. We have family support services. We're helping about 50 parents and families with skill development. And we also have a foster care program as well. We are also behavioral health counseling, supporting many individuals and families, in addition to about the 150 youth that are kind of part of the youth engagement area. And we have days of caring. There's so many opportunities to mentor young people, to come and speak to our different programming. But I think the key is to, you know, pull up a chair or pick up the phone and let's have a conversation. Because what I find is that you can participate in something that's already established, like our day of caring or becoming a speaker or a mentor. But there's also those new things that happen very organically as well. And sometimes it's through a conversation. It might be yourself or somebody in your network, and we get to talking and boom, a new opportunity happens. Like the way we ended up at a home in Princeton and we were meeting Princeton students. That's nothing that's on the website. That happened through a conversation with Kathy. Right. And that's just how it happens. So, yes, you know, I encourage you to pick up the phone and give us a call. If you really have a heart for this and want to open up your heart and meet, maybe it's coming to read to the children. You may play an instrument and could come and play your flute to the preschoolers. They would love it, whatever it might be. So, you know, don't be afraid to reach out. Let's have a conversation, create something new, or participate in something we already have.
Great. Thank you for that. Thank you both. We may have an opportunity we have a few more minutes left, and we might be able to entertain a question from our members. And I see one here. How have you adapted your programming to meet the demographic changes within the county throughout the years?
Well, I can answer that. Just Rise has been in this East Windsor
Hightstown area for over 50 years. And the demographics have gone from a farming community to a suburban community. Right now, it's a large immigrant population, and the immigrant population has changed over time. So it's just a lot of different groups. We're just an evolving agency. I would be akin to sort of the women and girls. Like, you are agile, we're agile too. We're meeting the needs of the community as they happen and when they happen. So our organization is designed to meet the community where and when it is. That's why for over 50 years, we've been able to be here.
And for us, just an amazing real live example. Just 2 Fridays ago, we were in Trenton Central High School performing. And in a class, we asked a question in English, and the person said, "I don't understand English." And this was an 11th grade class. And immediately I turned to our peers that spoke Spanish, and they started doing the whole presentation bilingually. And it was just amazing to see the Spanish speaking students kind of like, they were sort of surprised. I think they were just assuming everything was going to continue to go in English and they were going to be left behind. And our students, in a moment's notice, did the Q&A. Ed was walking back to where the people were speaking Spanish, and then, we'd go to him, and then he would translate for everybody to hear what was happening. It was just fantastic. I think we're also seeing a lot of undocumented students, and so we're having to work through how do we handle and support them in getting into college and helping them and their families. Those are 2 really live things that are facing us now, and that we're rising to the challenge to meet it.
And I'll just add, our youth group this year, because of so many language challenges, they developed a sign language program, and they've been traveling around to local high schools. They just went to West Windsor, Plainsboro High School, and they're teaching the sign language program just because there's so many different languages, and how can the youth communicate to each other. So they designed the sign language program, and they're bringing it to schools around the county. So those are some of the fun things that we're doing as well.
Yeah. Leslie, I'd like to check in with you on that. Maybe they could come to the peers and teach sign language. Be something new for us.
Collaboration at its best, right?
Yes.
Well, I see also a message from Dr. Nicole McGrath, thanking Michelle and Leslie for your dedication to the Trenton community. And one of our members also posted a note saying, "Let us know more about the Turkey Drive volunteer information in case we can show up." So I see several sort of thank yous, and I love Leslie notices and Michelle.
Yeah, I have to jump in here, Nalita, and say thank you so very much. If we will save this chat and share it with the panelists, because so many people thanked both of you, all 3 of you, for providing your stories today. And our team has posted your volunteer pages in the chat. So anyone that's interested in volunteering at either Mill Hill or Rise can find the links directly in the chat. You'll find it at the bottom of the screen. If you just roll your mouse over, you'll see a chat button, and it'll pop up. In addition, I see that Isabel also posted the link to the report that Leslie referenced, and that report was commissioned by Liz Gray Erickson, who you'll hear a little bit more about this evening. So it's really wonderful. It's just another way that we just work so well together. And I want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts, the Fund for Women and Girls, for you being here tonight and sharing your stories. And please, anyone that has questions throughout the rest of the program, put them in the chat. Our panelists will be here. We'll hang around for a few minutes afterwards. So I'd like to maybe invite Terry on to come on to take on to the next part of our program. Hi, Terry. Thanks.
Hi. Hello, everyone. My name is Terry Kent, and I am the chair of the Grants Committee. I want to acknowledge the work of the 14 members of our Grants Committee. Each year, we read and evaluate the applications we receive and discuss them at length so that all the organizations are given fair and thoughtful consideration. While the pandemic again required us to conduct our site visits virtually, the most important parts of our grant making remained the same. Careful evaluations, a fair and equitable process, and voting by you, our voting members. This year, we evaluated 28 applications, the most ever. Using what we learned in our site visits, the Grants Committee chose the 10 finalists who were presented to our voting members for their review and vote in anticipation of tonight's event. This year, we are awarding the most number of grants and the most number of multi-year grants in our 23-year history. Thank you to all of the voting members who read the 10 summaries and made the difficult ranking choices required. All of this year's finalists are exemplary organizations making significant impacts in the community. I'm sure the choices were as difficult for you as they were for those of us on the Grants Committee. Now it's time for our second set of videos so that you can hear more about the impact of your donations.
I'm Laura Wall, Executive Director of CASA for Children of Mercer and Burlington counties. CASA, court-appointed special advocates, provide support for hundreds of local children in foster care. We recruit and extensively train and support community volunteers who are sworn in by a family court judge to advocate in the best interest of the children to which we're assigned. Our advocates work diligently to make sure that our children have the support that they need and deserve. They talk to therapists, case managers, teachers, bio parents, foster parents, and as a result, they're often the one person who has the fullest picture of the child's experience, and our children have experienced real trauma. A good example of the kind of work that we do and the impact that it has is recently we were assigned a case with two little boys. The boys had been in the system for quite a while, and they had bounced around from various relatives' homes. So eventually they were placed with grandmother, removed from their mother's home, and that's where CASA got involved. Because of all of the back and forth with the children, there was a lot of trauma there, a lot of instability, so we assigned our most experienced CASA to the case. And the first thing she did was make sure that the children were evaluated, and unsurprisingly, they came very high for PTSD, even though they're little kids. So from there, she got them into therapy. And then she realized that one of the children had some educational issues and needed support there, so she was able to work that through as well. There were some issues with insurance, and she worked that through. So these children, because of the supports that CASA was able to do and working within the system, were able to be adopted by grandma. She felt comfortable doing that, and they have a much more secure environment than they would ever have had otherwise. I really think that the work that CASA does is foundational. Not only does it impact our children, but it impacts the whole community. When you take care of your most vulnerable members, children in foster care, you create a better environment for everyone. We really want to thank the Fund for Women and Girls for the support that you've provided for us. It enabled us to recruit and train dozens of community volunteers who became CASA advocates. And those CASA advocates were able to support many dozens of children in foster care and their families. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tia Barron. First, I would like to thank you and Fund for Women and Girls for having me here today, and all of that you've done for Arm in Arm and Still Standing. I started out in Still Standing as a member. I started out in 2019 in the very beginning. I got help through Arm in Arm because I was a struggling mom. I have 4 children, so I just needed some help. Paying rent and getting caught up on some bills I kind of fell behind on. Reaching out to Arm in Arm put me in contact with Vanessa Lagaris, who in turn asked me if I wanted to be a part of Still Standing. I thought it was a great idea. What better than to have a group of women to encourage you and push you through and coach you through, your daily life, through ups and downs, goods and bads. So one of the important benefactors Still Standing has helped me with is becoming financially stable. We had a program where we had to write down our spending habits, put a budget together. So, and I had to follow that budget because honestly, I wasn't working off of a budget. So knowing how to budget my money put me in a position where I could pay the necessary bills on time, where I wouldn't fall behind, know what I was making, actually see what I was making, and being able to save was big for me. So just to have a coach that can show you how to save and budget your money, that put me in a position where I could save and stay on top of my bills permanently, and not fall behind where I would have to be in the same position again. So that was a big thing for me to thrive and still standing and to take with me moving forward. As I went through the program and I was asked if I would like to be a part of the still standing team as an employee. And I thought, wow, I really thought that was, great to offer or come to me with that offer. It's a part-time position for project coordinator. I applied for the position, interviewed for the position, and was offered the position. I started in August and been going ever since. It's a blessing for me because I was in the program and I was being helped. So now to be put in a position where I can help others is awesome. And I think that speaks to exactly what the program is for and what it can do.
My name is Miranda Christ. I'm the Development and Communications Associate with the Latin American Legal Defense and Education Fund. LALDEF's Futuro program is our high-impact youth mentoring program for first and second generation immigrant high school students. So the program holds weekly tutoring sessions, monthly workshops, and a variety of other enrichment activities that support the development of our students. All of our students come from low-income families, and a majority are first-generation Americans. Educational disparities are pretty stark in Mercer County. In Trenton, absenteeism rates are among the highest in the state, and high school graduation rates for Hispanics are quite low. College graduation rates are even lower. So that's where our Futuro program comes in. We work to bridge gaps in access to educational resources. One example that comes to mind that's sort of a small scale illustration of this is one of our students in the Futuro class of 2021 who was initially ambivalent about applying to Princeton University. She just wasn't sure if she was qualified. So our program staff supported her through the application process. And she applied, she got an interview. She was waitlisted at first, but that didn't stop us. We encouraged her to write a letter to Princeton explaining why she should be admitted. And she did, and she followed up with a phone call. And we're pleased to say that she ultimately was accepted, and she's now an attendee of Princeton, a student at Princeton University. And yeah, she plans to apply to medical school someday. So that's just one example of one of the many successes in our Futuro class of 2021. We're really proud of our students, and we're so grateful to the Fund for Women and Girls for supporting us through multi-year funding. It's allowed us not only to sustain this wonderful program over the years, but it's also poised us to expand. So we're currently institutionalizing Futuro Familia, which is our family support program that's complementary to our Futuro program. And we're also working on expanding the program to include high school sophomores in addition to the juniors and seniors that we've been working with so far. So we're so grateful to the Fund for Women and Girls, and thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Natalie Tung, and I'm the co-founder and executive director of Homeworks Trenton, a community-based after-school residential program for girls in Trenton, New Jersey. We are so excited and grateful to have been a Fund for Women and Girls grant recipient this past year. Typically at Homeworks, we run a residential program where our girls are transported to and from their public schools, do programming focused on academics, life skills, civic engagement, women empowerment, and more, stay overnight in our dorm, and go home on the weekends. But when COVID made this impossible, your funding allowed us to successfully adapt into an in-person program where we had our scholars transported to our space to assist them with virtual schooling, have daily lunches, programming, and more. We would not have been able to do this without your financial support. Over the past 5 years, we've measured success and above average performance in our scholars' academic performance, their school attendance, social emotional growth, college preparedness, and more. We've been able to work alongside our parents and scholars, and I want to highlight one of our scholars who I am so proud of. DeRay, who is our senior and peer leader, started out on our 2017 pilot as a rising 8th grader. Over the past 5 years, we've been privileged to see her step into her power and lead as not only, and mature not only as a scholar, but also as a leader. Together with our parents, teachers, and community leaders, we've created a space where DeRay has been able to grapple with tough topics like gender, colorism, self-love, the power of voting, and more. And over the years, we've seen DeRay see herself differently and gain the confidence to navigate all of her spaces and be the amazing, beautiful woman that she is. Whether it's in front of other scholars at Homeworks or over 1,000 people in an auditorium, when DeRay speaks, everyone goes quiet, and we are all learning and listening from her. I'm so proud to say that DeRay has just been accepted into college, but not only that, with our partnership with the Give Back Foundation, she has the choice to attend this college on a full ride scholarship, room and board included. Thank you so much, Fund for Women and Girls, for making this all possible.
Hi, everyone. My name is Isabel Zisk, and I'm a co-chair of the Fund for Women and Girls. Tonight, you've heard from last year's grant awardees, and in just a few moments, we'll be announcing tonight's 2021 grant awards. Of course, the night wouldn't be complete without us asking you to donate. But first, let me take 1 minute to explain why giving through the fund is so much more effective than what you can do on your own. In short, we do what no individual donor has the expertise, time, or access to do. We invite hundreds of nonprofits to apply and educate them about women and children. We assemble an expert grants committee. We consult the professional staff at the Community Foundation and other area leaders to discover which organizations do the most effective work. Our grants committee reads and discusses dozens of applications and does more than a dozen site visits with nonprofit leadership, asking the questions that need to be asked to make good decisions. And then we distill it all down so that you can be an informed voter. This is the kind of expertise and access that you just cannot get as an individual donor. If you appreciate the value we deliver, and if the stories you've heard tonight move your heart, please consider making or increasing your gift tonight using the links in the chat. Now, before I announce the winners, I'd like to share some special news. Because of some very generous gifts, tonight we have the honor of awarding, for the very first time, the Liz Gray Erickson Memorial Grant, a 3-year grant given in memory of our friend and colleague. Liz led the Fund for Women and Girls from 2012 through 2014. During her tenure, she commissioned the fund's foundational research report, Shaping the Future, the Status of Women and Girls in Mercer County, which formed the basis of our current grant-making efforts. With her visionary leadership, Liz planted the seeds of our grant-making focus. Liz believed in sustained nonprofit investment as a means to foster meaningful, positive change. Implicit in her life of service was the belief that by working together, we can make our communities better. These values of service, respect, inclusion, and leadership are reflected in the organizational practices of the nonprofit that will receive this grant tonight. And now here's the moment we've all been waiting for. We are excited to present in random order the organizations our voting members have selected as our 2021 grantee partners. Children's Home Society will receive a one-year grant to expand its bilingual childbirth doula program. Life Ties will receive a one-year grant to assist their transitional rapid rehousing project to support homeless young mothers. CASA will receive a one-year grant to train and supervise community volunteers serving foster children removed from their homes due to abuse and/or neglect. Princeton Nursery School will receive a one-year grant to renovate its 2 children's bathrooms, serving 45 children with low-cost, high-quality childcare. KinderSmile will receive a 2-year grant to provide desperately needed dental work to pregnant and postpartum moms and their children. Arm in Arm will receive a 3-year grant to support its Still Standing program, which breaks the cycle of poverty by teaching the skills and mindsets needed to create long-term stability and economic mobility for single moms and their children. And lastly, it is our honor and pleasure to award the 3-year Liz Gray Erickson Memorial Grant to HomeWorks Trenton to support its after-school residential program for girls with academic tutoring, life skills training, social and emotional skills learning, college preparation, and more, so that they can be successful in school and beyond. We hope you will join us in celebrating our 2021 grantee partners. While we look forward to shining a spotlight on their work in the months to come, each of them had a very simple message for you. Thank you. And thank you to all of our donors. We could not do this without you. I think we leave here tonight with a greater understanding of the enormous and sometimes unexpected challenges facing our community. Once again, thank you to our panelists for sharing your perspectives on women in philanthropy. If you've been touched by what you saw tonight, please give or increase the contribution you've already made through the links in the chat. The women and children of Mercer County need you. We hope you have enjoyed this very special annual meeting of the Fund for Women and Girls. Please watch your inbox for a follow-up email from tonight's event. We encourage you to stay on if you have any questions or would like to continue the conversation with our panelists. Thank you and good night. And for those who are staying on, I will get the informal Q&A started in just a minute with the first question. And that first question is, what are the things that you see the fund doing that you wish other funders would do?
I can answer that. Visit us. You know, there's nothing like face-to-face, seeing what's going on, sitting in an office or walking around the town, experiencing working with the kids when there's kids around, the excitement, the vibe, and what's going on. I love that the Women and Girls Fund visits us, and that's what I would encourage more people to do. it's building that community, and especially when you're maybe at a distance or at a place that you might not otherwise travel, go see what that's about. See the people that are living there and experience what it's like to be a little bit more on the ground. And also for some of us smaller nonprofits, like check out our offices, like see the work that we're doing with limited means, and understand how crucial the funding is. That would be, I think that's something that I've always enjoyed of meeting the so many of the funders from Women and Girls, and the site visits. I think that's really crucial and important, and it makes the people doing the work on the ground, it makes all of us feel special as well.
You know, I'd say one thing that I see the Fund for Women and Girls doing that maybe some others aren't is just how easy it is now with the processes and kind of coming through COVID. Some organizations have still kept that rigor of heavy grant application processes and so much documentation. And I really feel like the Fund for Women and Girls got it and really streamlined it, adding these more multi-year grants as well as the unrestricted funding. And it's just, like I said earlier, it was just such a relief to have that come in. And as Leslie mentioned, knowing that you trust us when you're giving us the money, you trust that we know where to spend it versus it having to be in restricted areas. And I just think that's marvelous that the fund picked up on that, and it has allowed that for all their grantees.
We just remind all of our attendees that if you have any questions for the panel tonight, you can put them in the chat. And I'm just going to give it 1 minute to see if we get anything. I think we've answered all of the questions that are in the chat. So maybe I can ask each of you, including Nalita, if you have any final thoughts that you want to send us off with.
I would just echo again what you have mentioned, Isabel, the power of giving collectively and just the power of giving. I think so many of us that are on the ground really count on that support to help the families and the clients that we serve. And when we can do it collectively through the Fund for Women and Girls, it just feels so much more powerful. And yeah, I'm in Mill Hill, but I'm also, you know, a contributor to the Fund for Women and Girls, and I've been on the leadership team and on the grants committee and wore different hats along the way. And it's just fantastic to see the Fund for Women and Girls just to continue to advance and to thrive, and then share that back so that our community can get that lift as well too. So, and bring a friend along. I would just ask people as you do it, continue to bring your friends along, and let's continue to expand this giving network that we have here.
And I would add that the role of funders and the role of philanthropy is evolving. You know, as we talked about trust-based philanthropy, it really is something that we need to work more toward and have it be circular as opposed to a top-down kind of approach. And I think COVID has helped all of us see that there are so many ways in which we're interconnected in so many more powerful ways. And so I think it's a new day forward, and I'm looking forward to the journey.
Plus, when you are part of the Fund for Women and Girls, you're part of a really dynamic, intelligent, thinking group that talk about issues and volunteering and how to help and the academics and for people who like to do homework, or very nerdy people like me who like policy, this is a group that you can find a space that you're comfortable in. And there's not so many places out there sometimes that can get a little bit more granular, where you do think about what you're about how to give and where and how to do it. So I appreciate that from the fund, and I think that other foundations in general don't always look at those levels, but from, you know, a nerd to maybe other kind of people who maybe a little nerdy who really want to think about things, this is the place. And I always appreciate the intelligence and the wit and the thought that goes into the funding process.
Thank you all so much. We thank all of our panelists. We thank all of you who stayed on to chat a little bit longer. And we especially thank our grants committee for doing such tremendous work to prepare us for tonight, and to all of the nonprofits who are doing just outstanding work in the community. Thank you. And we look forward to seeing you next year.